Okay, so we got up to yesterday. We got up to the story how Rab Chanina ben Tradyon was being tried, and he was convicted to death, but a horrible death through Sreifa. And the Gemara tells us that the reason why he was sentenced to that is because he was Hoyges Hashem Be'ez Yosov, and we had Rashi's Pshat, which I didn't really understand what it meant. That was Shador Shoy B'Mem Beis Oisios V'Oisa Boy Mashu Chofet. He did with the Shem Hashem what he wanted. I'm not sure what that means. Tosfos says that he pronounced Yud Kei Vav Kei. How could he do that? Zok the Gemara, he only did it Lislamed, and according to the Gershon Gemara, is even though he did it Lislamed, he shouldn't have done it for Hesi. Okay, now we need to know why his wife was also sentenced to death. So Zok the Gemara Val Ishtoi Lahariga. So it's about 6 lines or 7 lines down from the top of Yud Peshamar Aleph. Val Ishtoi Lahariga, Deloi Michabe. If you look at the Gimel, it should say Machkabe. I'm not just listening to but she saw what was going on, and she could have said, I don't think it's appropriate, and she didn't. And therefore she was also sentenced to death. Mikan Amru, from here you see, the Kol Mishiesh Biyade Limchais, if someone could have prevented someone from doing an Aveira, could have spoken up, but didn't, Nenesh Alav. You know, there's a famous word they say over from Pesach Kron, although I doubt he ever said this, and he would say about a husband and a wife, he would say, a wife, her husband's Gashmias should be her Ruchnias. She has to take care of her husband. And your husband's Ruchnias is none of your business. That's what they say over from a Pesach Kron. But Vais Techois, your husband's Ruchnias is, to a certain degree, very much your business, because Kol Mishiesh Biyade Limchais, Veinei Moicha, Nenesh Alav. Now, what about Val Bitoy? This is a very scary Gemara of how Kadosh Baruch Hu is medacted with us. Val Bitoy Leisha Bekubush Ozayna, she was sentenced to have to be part of a Beis Zaynis, Rachman al-Tzlan, and service people. And we'll soon see that some of the money, some of the profits, went to the chief pimp, who was the emperor of Rome. Do you remember Yitzchak? One day she was walking, and there were some great Roman senators there. Amru, they commented, look how beautifully this woman's gait is. Look how beautifully she's walking. Miyad, she heard that, so she got more concerned about how she walks. She made sure to walk in a way where it should be more beautiful, maybe more provocative. The avoinus from my heels will surround me. And we darshin avoinoi sha'adam dash ba'kevav ba'olam hazeh, averlach, that people don't even pay much attention to in olam hazeh, musuben loy, encircle him liyoim hadin. So if you think about it, what a tremendous diktuk it is, that she for sure was not walking in a way that was not sneistic, yet there was still they still munter. And Rashi says, Shadam dash ba'kevav, dikuk b'tziyos kehacha. So either dash ba'kevav means literally with her gait, with her walking, or lishnachina she'adam darson beraglov she'ein cheshuvin beinav klum. It doesn't seem like it's a very big deal. Okay, so to Gemara weiter. B'shashi yatzu shloshtam, when they were all three of them, Chanina, his wife and his daughter, were taken out to have their sentence carried, spontaneously the psukim that came to their mind to justify and accept what Rabbi Shalom was being goyzer them with was remarkable. Shloshtan tzodka aleim esadin, and the right psukim came to their mind and came to their mouths. Hu Amar, Rabbi Chanina said, Hatzur Tamim Pa'aloi. He's being taken out to be brutally tortured and murdered. And what does he say? Hatzur Tamim Pa'aloi. V'ishtay Amra, Keil Amuna Ve'inovel. B'itay Amra, Ge'adoy La'etza, V'rav Ha'alila, Asher Einecha Fekuchais Al Kol Derachai. You could clearly see that she learned in Bishakov High School, so she knew Navi better. They only had psukim from Hazinu, but she quoted from Navi because she had teachers who used to ask her Mira Marami, so they were able to know all these psukim. Let's have a quick look at Rashi. I'll call Rashi afilu diktuk psiois. So she's pointing out the Navi says that Hakadosh Baruch Hu was medactic, even the way people walk. That's also something that gets taken into account. And they all justified and accepted the Gzar Din. Amar Rebbe, Kama Gedolim Tzadikim Alodu. How great these Tzadikim are, Shenizdamnu Lahen, Shalosh Mekroi Shal Tziduk Adin, B'Shas Tziduk Adin. This is what comes to their mind. Most people, when they're about to undergo a severe tragedy, they think about how they can get out of it. They're thinking about how unfortunate they are. And what were they thinking of? They were only thinking of Gadlus and the Rebbeinu Shloim and accepting what the Rebbeinu Shloim was geyser. Tanu Rabbanim, Kishachala Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma. Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma, when Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma became unwell, Halach Rabbi Chanina ben Tradyon Levakre. Rabbi Chanina ben Tradyon went to visit him. Amaloi Chanina Achi, I ati Yodea, Shu'umazu, Min Hashemayim Himlichua. This Ummah, meaning the Romans that destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, they were empowered with Hashemayim. Shechrivas Beisai. They were Machriv, the Beis HaMikdash. V'sarfa Seichalei. They brought the Heichal. V'hargos Chasidov. V'ovda es Toivav, or Stuvov. Destroyed the best of the Eden. And Vadayin Hikayemes. You see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu somehow is shining on them now. Now the Romans are on an uptick. They're doing okay. So why would you violate in public a decree that they put out and endanger your life? And you have a Sefer Torah with you, like it's a little bit reckless. You see, the Rebbeinu Shalom is giving the Romans a lot of koyach, and they've prohibited learning Torah. Okay, you learn Torah, Avoda, you have to learn Torah, I agree, but you don't have to go flash it in their faces and do it in public. You know what Rabbi Chanina answered? They should take care of me. There was a story in Lakewood where you remember, do you remember Ken Trabert? Ken Trabert was in Philadelphia a little bit. He was in Lakewood. He was a Ger Tzedek, and he used to hang out in yeshiva. And if they needed prescriptions written out, he was able to write prescriptions because he was an MD official. He was in research, so he used to write prescriptions out. If a guy needed, for a cold, for this, he used to write a prescription. It was signed Philadelphia. You know the pills that the Reform used to give out during epidemics? Those came from him. And he used to write prescriptions in Lakewood. And there was a bacher, Achman Latzlon, on Shavuos. He had meningitis. So he was in really bad shape. He wasn't hospitalized. He was in the yeshiva dorm room. So it got really bad on the Shavuos. And they called Reb David Shustel that this bacher is very sick. So Reb David called Dr. Trabert, and they go together to this bacher's room. And they see that this boy is like delirious, he's in bad shape. It was like really scary. Reb David got very scared. So Reb David told him, the doctor, Reb Ken, what do we need to do here? So he looks at him and says, Rosh Yeshiva, ik meen, we're talking to him. And Reb David Shustel got so angry, ich meen epis lemaisa. So that's what happened over here. Amar loy min hashemayim yirachamu. So Rabbi Chanina said, no, Rabbi Hashemayim. Amar loy, so Rabbi Yosy told Rabbi Chanina, Ani oimelach dvarim shall tam. I'm telling you important practical things over here. You're going to get yourself killed. Va'ata oimer li min hashemayim yirachamu. Tamani, I'd be surprised if you don't get yourself into trouble. Im lo yisravu oisach v'sefer Torah be'esh. So that's exactly, in fact, what happened. I'm speaking practical. We have real concrete action that we must take right here, right now. Look at Rashi's Dover Shaltam. Shechivas Beisoy Vargas Chasidov. Vadan Kayamis. There's a danger over here. You can't make light of it. Amaloi Rebbe Mani L'chaya Hilam Haba. He asked his Rebbe, Rabbi Chanina asked his Rebbe, Rabbi Yosy, am I gonna what's my situation in Olam Haba? Amaloi, you want to know if you're gonna go to Olam Haba? It's unbelievable because I'm sure Rabbi Chanina was a tzaddik, shabbat tzaddikim, a talmid chacham, a marvitz Torah, he had everything going for him. But that's not what counted. That's not what counted. You know what's going to get you into Olam Haba? Amaloi. So Rabbi Yosy asked him, did you ever have a ma'isa where you were moishe nefesh for a tzveita? As Rashi says, "Ve'eshma eicha yisinoyik." I want yisinoyik. Let me hear a story where you were moishe nefesh for a tzveita. That's the only thing that's going to get you into Olam Haba. Amalei, he said, "Moishel Purim nischal fuli b'moishel tzedakah." We just discussed this story yesterday. V'chalaktim laniyim, and they gave him out to the aniyim. So Rashi says that he gave his money to the aniyim because he made a mistake and he never collected it back. Toshu says he already knew when he was distributing the funds that he was distributing the wrong funds, and he distributed rather than send the aniyim home empty-handed. Amaloi, so Rabbi Yosy, you did chesed, you were moishe nefesh. Imkein mechelkecha yehei chelki halavai. I should be near you. Umigarelcha yegareli. This little chesed wasn't enough to save him from the government, right? He told the Rebbe Lozer ben Prata, you did much more chesed than I did, so you're gonna be saved. But I'm getting killed. But Aval Pikein, he was such a high madrega of chesed that he was on that Rabbi Yosy was hopeful could be close to him. You know, they say over a story where somebody died, he went up to Shemayim, and they want, he says, "No, against the Gan we want to see that you were Moshe Nefesh Ratzveta, because looking at your life, it's not particularly remarkable. Did you ever do something that was off the charts, that was remarkable, that shows an emissary care for Ratzveta?" He says, "Sure, I remember once I was walking down the street, and I'm not a strong guy, I'm a regular guy, and there was 5 big Bulvan Goyim harassing a Jew, yanking his space, slapping him, beating him up, and nobody was coming to his defense. And I summoned the bravery up in my system, and I walked up to them and said, 'Don't you dare touch that guy!' So they said, 'Really? Wow, that's a mamash of bravery.' And they walked away from him. Mamash of bravery. When did this mice happen? He said, 'About 2 minutes ago.'" So Dr. Gemara, the chalaktim ladim. So Amar Loim came mechalchi yichalki megrachi yigarolu. Amar said laho yom muatim at shenifter Rabbi Yosy ben Kisma. Not long after that, Rabbi Yosy ben Kisma died, or Chanina's Rebbe. V'halchu kol gedoylei roimi lekavroi. All of the great Romans came to be part of his levaya. Vespiduhu hesped gadol, and they made a huge hesped. Uv'chazarason, and on their way back from the levaya, Matzul Rabbi Chanina ben Tradyon shal Yosy ve'oisek b'Torah umakil kihilos barabim, totally ignoring their prohibition on learning Torah barabim v'sefer Torah munach loy b'cheikai. So what did they do? They grabbed him, they arrested him. V'karchu b'sefer Torah, they wrapped him around with the sefer Torah. Now, somewhere in here, we have to stick in the story that we learned yesterday. They asked him, "Why are you teaching Torah?" And he said, "Because Hashem said, and I don't care what you have to say." So they wrapped him, meaning fuel. And the Mepharshim explained, they dug a pit, and they put him into the pit, and they wanted him to remain standing as he got burnt to death. So they used something of a leather form to hold his body up, and they had fire at the bottom, and the fire would slowly climb from his legs, burning up would get to the top of his body. And they lit it on fire, but they wanted him to feel the pain, so they didn't want him to die quickly. So therefore, they put cold compresses, wet compresses on his chest. So he should suffer. So the flames will engulf his whole body, and when it got up to his chest, it would go climb up his back, but it would stop at his chest, which would keep him alive, and he would suffer terribly, feeling all that pain. His daughter told him, "Abba Tati, ercha bekach, how you talking that I should see you in such a horrific situation? Kloimar, Zui schar shel Torah. Is this the schar of your Torah that I have to see you? Your daughter has to see you in such a horrible situation." Armala, he told her back, "Ilmali ani nisrafti levadi." If I was burnt by myself with nothing accompanying me, it would bother me very much. But so as I'm being violated, the Heilige Torah is being violated. The Rebbeinu Shalom who's going to mend the covenant of the Sefer Torah, surely, who Yevakish al Boini, he will be Mevakish my Bizayin. It's very interesting because Rabbi Loi spoke to that many times. When he speaks about Gavra Rabbah, my favorite subject, he says, the Gemara Makkah says, one of the I don't remember who it was, I'm always amazed that people stand up in front of a Sefer Torah, but they don't stand up in front of a Gavra Rabbah. Meaning, it's more important to show covet for a Talmud Chacham than it is to show for a Sefer Torah himself. But you see, Rabbi Chanina was such an onav, and he said, Hashem's only going to stand up for me because I'm together with the Sefer Torah. He placed himself below the Sefer Torah. So Amr Loi Talmidav. So his Talmidim told him, Rebbe, Ma Ataroya, what do you see? What type of question is that? He's in the middle of being burned to death, and they're asking him what he saw. So Tosfos says, the reason why they asked this question is, so Tosfos show you near Behineim, it looked to them, Shahayaloi Lirais Shum Davar Chema or Tema? Tema. Shum Davar Tema. They figured they saw if he's flying in the Himmel, he must be seeing Haichazachen at the time of his patira when he's going through such tsar. So they wanted to know what was going on behind the scenes. That's one reason why they might have asked. Inami b'shvil shoyishaymin toil ha'oisiyos ha'parchos. We're going to see in a minute that the oisiyos of the Torah were parchos baver, because as the cloth was being burnt, the oisiyos were going into the air, and the voices of these oisiyos, I'm not sure exactly what that means, they heard. So they heard a noise. So what's going on? Tell us what's going on. They had the audio, they didn't have the video. Or stamazai, when someone's in such a matzav, who knows what he sees? So what Amarlan Gilyon Nisrafin, I see the parchment being burnt, but the oisiyos parchos, the oisiyos are flying. Then they told him he kept his mouth closed because if the fire would have got into his mouth, it would have killed him faster. By keeping his mouth closed, being that his chest area was being protected, it was prolonging the agony. So they told him, open your mouth, let the flames jump up, because sometimes the flames will jump up, let it go into your mouth and burn you, and this way you'll die faster and you won't suffer so much. He was probably, speaking, the Mefarshim explained, the fire stayed below his chest. So how did it get to his mouth? But every so often, the fire is not perfectly steady. It flickers up. So when it flickered up, inhale that fire so that it should burn you. I'm sorry?
That's what he's talking. No, maybe he himself was giving himself to do that.
Say that again?
Make himself like it.
Right, that's what it was for. If you get the fire into your mouth, it'll hurry up to death, so you won't have so much pain. Oh, so that's what it is. Amalan mutav sheyetlena mi shenasna. Better the Rebbeinu Shalom who gave me chiyas, he should take away chiyas away. Val yechabelu ba'atzmai. But I'm not going to hurt myself. So let's stop for 1 second because Tosfos has something interesting to tell us over here. Val yechabelu ba'atzmai. Emir be'yotam. Very interesting. Tehecha sheyureim. If you're afraid, chas v'shalom rachmana litzlan, someone's being tortured, and he's afraid that he's going to succumb to the torture and then be over and avera because of it, which Rabbi Chanina was not under that threat anymore. Pen yarvirum through torture, that he won't be able to withstand. Right? The Gemara says if Chananya, Mishael, Azariah being tortured, they would have not been able to withstand resisting the Avodah Zara. Then also mitzvah lachav b'atmai. Then it's a mitzvah for someone to hurt himself and to take his own life. Little children were captured and they were going to be sold off. They jumped into the yam and they all committed suicide. That's allowed when they're risking shmad. But Rabbi Chanina wasn't. He was receiving Yisur and he said, I will not be machabel of myself. That's the Rebbeinu Shalom's job. Omer loy klat toniri. The klat toniri was the executioner. The only way I could describe him are with words that I don't like to use ever. They're not appropriate words. But this is a murder al Tzayach. And he said, Rebbe, Imani marbe b'shal heves, if I make the fire hotter, v'noitos svugim shall temer ma'alip, and I remove the wet sponges on you that will now hasten your death and reduce your pain. Atom mevi'eni lechaya olam haba. Will you bring me to chaya olam haba? I don't know. Most people I know would have answered in a very crude fashion. Amar lei, but Reb Chanina didn't say that. He said, "Hey, yes." Mamish, I wonder. Reb Chanina wasn't making a deal with him that because Reb Chanina wanted to get help. Clear not. Reb Chanina clearly didn't have a problem. The pain that he was in, he was from the Rebbeinu Shalom. So he was mamish answering Latovis, the guy. The guy's killing him and torturing him, and he's going to pass on the shot to help the guy. I would say, me, you're going to ask. Go ask your rabbi. I'm not going to help you with this one, right? But Reb Chanina had the clarity of mind in such a horrible situation to actually paskin Fayener what would be best for him. He said, "Yeah, he will." He shavali swear to me that that's the case. Nishbaloi. Miyad hirbe b'shal heves, v'not al svugin shal shema me'aliboy, v'yatza nishmosoi b'mehera. Now this guy knew that he got a clean slate, he got a promise from Rab Chanina. He decided he doesn't want to mess it up. Now's an opportune time to die before he can mess it up again. Afu kofatz v'nafal l'toicha or. He also jumped into the fire, and this is the hardest line that I ever read in my life. Yotza baskal v'omra. Rabbi Chanina ben Tradyon, Vikal Tunuri, he was in the same sentence as Rabbi Chanina, Muzumonim Hein, Lachaya Ha'olam Haba. Here, Bocha Rebbe V'amar once again, Yesh Koina Ilamai B'Shah Achas, V'yesh Koina Ilamai B'Kamashonim. Ich verginisht for their Kal Tuniri, such as Ach. But he had to hear a tshuva, and the Rebbe accepted it from him. But ich verginisht him nicht. What can I tell you? Anyway, what the Mefarshim speak out earlier, we learned yesterday that when someone's doing tshuva faminus or someone's odukan in avera and he does tshuva, in order for someone to do a tshuva shalema, it's such a heart-wrenching ripping away from what he's so used to that causes death. Right? That's what we learned yesterday. But there's some of the Mefarshim say, I don't remember who the Mesivta quote from, that the reason why that happens is because Baruch Hu makes that happen. You know why? Because when someone is so odukan chait, it's very easy for him to slip back. Once he was able to rid himself spiritually from these averis, and now he's in a massive of purity, the Rebbe wants to chap his neshama because now it's the best time. But we say in Tefillah Zaka, if you ever find like a perfect time, grab my neshama quickly, right? We even say that in Tefillah Zaka. So now your neshama is good, you're in danger of relapsing, so Kodesh Baruch Hu chaps you while you're hot. So what happened, Rachman al-Islam, to this daughter? We don't know her name, but this daughter that was put into a kupush ozoinos, what was her end? Zakti Gemara, Bruya, the visitor of Meir. Bruya was the wife of Reb Meir. She was another daughter of Reb Chanina. Barted Reb Chanina ben Tradyon. Now she has a sister who is now sentenced to be in Kuba Shal Zaynos. Amrloi, she told him, Zila bi Milsa, the Yosva Achsoi. This is a very Litvish Gemara. You'll see why in a second. It's a pasmechnish. It's a bizyonis that my sister should be Kuba Shal Zaynos. So Shokal Tarkava the Dinri, which was an insane, crazy amount of money. The Ozal Omar and Reb Meir went to see if he could rescue this girl with an insane amount of money. Mefarshim speak out. The halacha is you're not allowed to be poida a shvuya with more money than he or she is worth. We know the story from Ram Rottenberg. Why? Because that's only going to give the goyim an incentive to continue capturing. So therefore. But Allah is, you yourself, if you yourself are in captivity, you're allowed to pay any money in the world that you want to pay to rescue yourself. But you're not allowed to rescue Yener with more than the actual value. So therefore, Reb Meir's wife didn't say, oh, yeah, my sister, help my sister. No, because then there would be a limit to the amount of money they can spend. She said, this is my personal salvation, because I'm humiliated that my sister in this matzv, so for my own self, I'm allowed to spend as much money as I want, which now gave them a license to spend an unlimited vast sum to rescue this girl. So she told her husband, you got to go fix this girl up. So the Ozal Omar of Meir took the money and he went, and he doesn't even know how he's going to do this, but we're going to figure out some way to rescue this girl. Omar, he said, if somehow she was able to resist and she was not nishal in znus, even though she's zoyna in a bayish zoynis, misavad nisa, there'll be a nes, I'll be able to save her. Of the yisura, But if she already was nichshal, lois avodah nisa, I'm not going to be able to have a nace. This is the story, by the way, of her mayor Balanese. So if there's no isurim, there'll be a nace over here. Ozal nokut nafshe kichat parsha. He dressed up like a choshev senator, meaning the typical customer of a Beis Zionist, which I'm adding in because he wanted to look like he belonged. So who belonged to the Beis Zionist? The choshev senators. Those were the people who frequented these places because of their high stature and their greatness. Amr la hashmieni li. He told her, maybe you want to do some business together, maybe you want to have some fun. Amr la, she says, I would love to, but right now I'm not able to. Dashtanana, I'm having my period. I can't. Amar la misrachna mirsach. So he said, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that. I'll wait. I'll wait till your period's over. I want to be with you. Amar la, she told him, I don't know, what do you want from me? Nefishin tuva. You know, first of all, it's going to be a long time. And v'ika tuva hacha deshpirmina. What do you need to wait for me for? You're about taiva. You want taiva now? You don't know it's 6 weeks for your taiva. There's so many girls here. You can have your pick. I can do a lineup for you. You can have whatever you want. Why would you waste your time waiting for me? So the fact that she said that, Rabbi Meir said, Omar shmami na loyav the yisura. She kept on finding a way to get out of being mizana, and she always told men, why do you come to me? Go to the betters. She was able to deflect and prevent herself from falling into Isser. And called Yosy Amar lehachi. She probably says this to everybody. So she's tar. Also, he decided, I got my sign, I'm going to go laser ice. So also Lagabi Shomer Dida. He went to the person in charge of the Zoyna house. I'll call him Haggai. Amalei Hava Nihala. I'd like to buy her. I want her permanently. Amalei, are you crazy? Mistafina mimachuso. I gotta provide part of the revenue that she brings into the Malchus. I'm not going to have any revenue to give the Malchus. They'll kill me. They'll want to know, how did I let her escape? Amalei says, no problem. I'm going to give you an incredible, vast sum of money. Shekal Targava the Dinri, this huge amount of money that I brought. Palga Palach, half you'll use to be able to give the monthly revenue to the head pimp. Upalga Lavalach, and you can have the other half. You can have the other half, so you'll have money too. So look at Palga Palach as a shilton. So Rashi says, whenever he tries to blame you and attack you for letting her go free, you'll bribe him. But other Meforshim learned that it was just to provide the revenue, so they wouldn't even know that she was missing. So Amalei, very good. So that'll last me 6 months. But after I use up that money, now he's going to still want the monthly revenue. How am I going to provide that? So at that point, I'll tell you what you should do. Amalei, just say Alakah Demeir Aneni Umatzelas, and you'll be saved. Amalei, so the guard, I said, I'm not that stupid, You'll be long gone, she'll be long gone. I don't believe in your magical words that they're going to work. So, can I be so sure that that's going to work? I mean, you're telling me something that's a little bit hard to believe. Amalei, Ramesh says, no problem, I'll demonstrate. Hash the chazes. There was a band of wild dogs that was literally ripping people apart. So Reb Meir says, I'm going to provoke them. They're going to come attack us. Shokal Kala, he took a clump of earth, he threw it at them. Now they're jumping on them to attack. They were coming to eat up a bear. Amar Elakad the Meir Aneni, and all of a sudden, Shavkua v'Yahavale Shavkua, and they let him go. So therefore, v'Yahavale, they gave him, this guard gave him this girl. So it worked. So the Chorayim ask, in someone's life, you can say, you cannot say that they are a servant of God. So we know it says, you could only say that when the person is not alive anymore. The Gemara tells us. So the question is, how could he say Alakad Meir Aneni? The God of the Meir? How you talking? So the Meforshim tell us that what he meant was not the name Meir, which is a misconception. People think Alakad Meir Aneni is Reb Meir. No. Alakad Meir, the Rebbeinu Shalom was machlichtig in the Welt. He should bail me out. Or this was after the second Beis Hamikdash, Alakad Meir, the Rebbeinu Shalom that was Matzal Klai Yisrael with the Neris of Chanukah, he should save us. So that's what it's referring to, not that he was saying he's my God, kill a type of a lotion that he would say in reference to the others. Anyway, the Malchus found out that this girl had escaped. Asuya Askulas Kipo. So they took this Shomer and they were putting him up on the gallows. So he said, okay, let me try my magic. Amar, he said, and he just fell off the gallows. They couldn't somehow get him to stay connected to the gallows. They realized this guy is what we call Teflon Don. He won't stick on the gallows. They told him, hi, what's going on over here? How does this work? Amalu, I'll tell you what happened. This is what happened. He told him how Reb Meir bailed her out, and Reb Meir said, every time you say L'kadam Eraneni, you are going to avoid any type of problem. So they decided they had to put him on the most wanted list. They had to put Reb Meir on the most wanted list, because Reb Meir was now a very dangerous person. He could undo everything. So Demose, the Reb Meir Apischa Deremi, they scratched out his face on the entrance of Rome. So by the border, there was a big wanted sign. If anybody sees anybody who looks like this, you better report him. Armed and dangerous. Amri, they said, Kol the Chazi Lipartzufa Hadain, anybody who sees this face, Lyse should bring him in and report him to the authorities. Nowadays they say, don't approach him armed and dangerous, and they don't care if you get killed in the days of the Romans. You should bring him in. So Yom Echad Chazui, someone found him, and they pursued him. Rod Abasrei, they were running after him. So Rod Mikamayu, he ran away from them, and Levei Zoynos. Reb Meir jumped into a house of Zoynos. Why would he go to a house of Zoynos? Because the great Reb Meir, the last place you would ever find him is in a Beis Zoynos. So he figured that he'll lose their pursuit, because if he went to the Beis Zoynos, we sure got the wrong man. There's no way this is Reb Meir. The Rishonim ask, why didn't he just say L'kodem Eranenu? He had a winning formula. The Torah says he didn't want to be Saimich on a Nes. He was trying to escape this without being Saimich on a big Nes. So Ikad Amri, what happened in the Beis Zoynos? One of two things happened. Either Ikad Amri, B'shulei Oivdei Kachavim. We used to do a trick when we were in yeshiva to make people get ichi. So we would go like this. So it looked like you were touching your friend with the finger that you licked, right? And he goes, don't do that to me. But meanwhile, it's a different finger. So that's exactly what Reb Meir did in this place. So what he did was, there was a pot of tarfus cooking. Hamash baha. He stuck one finger into the pot, and the other finger he licked. Someone watching, seeing that happen fast, assumed that he was licking from his finger that he put into the pot. It was finger licking good. It was geschmack. So Reb Meir for sure wouldn't eat from Bishuli of the Kachavim, so that for sure got him off his tail, and they stopped pursuing him.
Location.
So where did this take place? I think this took place in Eretz Yisrael. Yeah, the Romans were in charge then.
No, I know.
It was after Chogmai. Yeah. No, there are some stories that happen in Babel. There's stories that happen all over the place. Yeah, well, no, the Caesar was Rome, but we were subject to Roman rule, so they would send the money back to.
I know.
Yeah. That's what happened in America, right? We all the money was being sent back to British rule. That's what caused the Boston Tea Party, right? It was taxation without representation. So that's pretty much what the Romans did too. So that was the first thing. That was the first thing that happened. And Ikadamri, there are those who say that something else happened. Also, Elio came. This is very, very fascinating. Idmul Kazoina, Elio Navi himself, Bektusha V'Tahara, came in the form of a Zoina. Karchasa, he was hugging Reb Meir to make it look that Reb Meir was engrossed in an act of chait. Omri Chas V'Sholem. So everyone said, Reb Meir Hava Loy Hava Avad Hachi. This couldn't be Reb Meir. Reb Meir wouldn't be entangled with a Zoina. So they left, they stopped the pursuit, and then come Arak Asula Bavel. After that, Reb Meir got up and ran away to Bavel, so he shouldn't be in danger anymore. Yeah, because he was here in the red. That's right. Igud Amri, Mehai Maisa. There are those who say that the reason why Reb Meir ran away was because of this story that we just discussed, that he freed his sister-in-law. The army, Mimaisa de Bruria. What was the story of Bruria? Bruria was his wife, as we mentioned earlier. And what happened was that she was once making chayzik of what the Chachamim said. Let's read it in Rashi inside. She made chayzik of what the Chachamim said in Kedushin. And that is, Noshim Daitan Kalos Hein Alayu. You're saying Noshim Daitan Kalos? What are you talking about? We're more disciplined, we're more reliable than Ben. And he told his wife, or Meir told his wife, Chayecha Soifach Lahoidus L'Devrayim. There's one day you're going to be moided that Chazal is right when they say Noshim Daitan Kalos. And what did he do? Vitziva la'echad mitalmidav l'nasoisa. He told one of his talmidim, I want you to try to seduce my wife. Ledaber avera, to try to seduce her to the avera. The hiftzibah yom rabim, he worked on her and he groomed her for a long time. Achinis rachis, until she was masking to do the avera. He entrapped his wife and got her to be masking to do the avera. When she found out that she was succumbed and she was mavuza, because her whole claim is that wouldn't happen to her, she committed suicide. So those who ran away because he was embarrassed because of what happened, some people hold he ran away because he was afraid he would be prosecuted. So that's the reason why he ran to Babel, not because of this story. Needless to say, these Tanoim didn't have it so easy. They also had a pretty rough and turbulent life. Itadinim are bullfights where they would throw Jews into coliseums with lions and tigers and tell them to fight. And of course, they would get ripped apart, and that was their entertainment, watching an animal rip apart a Jew. Charkum, Rashi says, is when an army was sieging and surrounding another enemy. They would wait there for extended periods of time. So they would have little mini stadiums where they would have entertainment there. So these places, if you go there, you see over there kishuv machers. In other words, entertainment venues. The Gemara here is going to slam the whole concept of entertainment. We think, entertainment. Entertainment is a chazer treif term. What we have to do with our lives is every moment has to be effective, has to be positive, has to be productive. Entertainment is just you sitting there like a poet, taking in someone entertaining you. That's chazu treif, and that's what the Gemara is saying over here. Which are also loichis and nechoshim. They also they're snake, they're snake charmers. Bukyoin, mukyoin, umulyoin, velulyoin, belurin, salgurin, and Rashi is kulan mila letonim. These are all entertainers. They're all entertainers. Hareza Moshev Leitzim. This is a Moshev Leitzim. Anything that's purely for entertainment, where there's no benefit to you, not inspiring, it's not encouraging, it's simply entertainment. That's called a Moshev Leitzim. Ashrei Haish Asher Leholach Batzas V'Shoyim U'V'Moshev Leitzim Lo I'm missing part of the pasuk. Let's look at the pasuk inside. But rather he focuses on productivity. You know what you learn from here? These things bring to Bittul Torah. So when I saw this Gemara, it didn't make sense to me. What do they bring you to Bittul Torah? They are Bittul Torah, right? What do they bring you to Bittul Torah? So I think Rashi is mashma. No, it's not a Rashi, but I saw it elsewhere. It's mashma. Bringing one to Bittul Torah means it destroys your productivity and your focus and your concentration. So even when you are learning, let's say you want to do entertainment an hour a day and the rest you want to learn, that'll impact, even when you are learning, you won't have the clarity of mind, you won't be able to focus. So not only is it Bittul Torah b'shas ma'aseh, but it also will drag down your whole level of understanding. Similar to what today's electronics does, that people are noticing. Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about any specific thing because there are yeshivas that take or camps that take kids to baseball games. Sometimes, if a kid's inspired, there's also a mile in that, right? There's a very famous story with the Lubavitcher Rebbe where he met a little child who was a big baseball fan, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe asked him, "Tell me, what's the difference between the players and a fan?" So because I don't know. So the Rebbe is very, very simple. Let's say your team is being wiped 20-0. Most of the fans leave early, but the players stay till the end. A Yid is a player. You, no matter what, you have to fight till the bitter end. So that was the limud from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I probably didn't say it over as good as Akiva. If Akiva would be here, he would jump in and he would correct me. But that was the gist of it. So I'm not going to talk about any specific thing if it's good or bad, but the concept of entertainment, pure entertainment, is bad. So Zog to Gemara, Uramini, Frag to Gemara. It says in the Brisa, you're allowed to go to these brutal, vicious, violent spectacles of a Jew being torn apart by a lion. It's mutter. You know why? You know what Jews do understand? They don't cheer like barbarians. They take out at the Hillim and they cry to the Rebbeinu Shalom, save this Yid whose life is in mortal danger. Ulekarka mutter, again, Yishiv Medina. You're allowed to go because it's machazak the soldiers, and at the end of the day, you want to be good with them because when they come and attack your city, you want them to spare the Yid. So if you have some type of relationship with them, with this army, hopefully they won't destroy. They won't destroy. So look at Rashi. Oh, actually, it doesn't mischanin lahem. It's mashma that you beg the authorities, let this Jew out. Why would you torture the Jew? I thought it means daven to the Rebbeinu Shalom. But Rashi is mischanin lahem. What does the article say? They're pleading to the authorities to release him? I thought it means they say tell him. They mean that to the authorities. So as Reb David said, aha, okay. Means Yisrael Hador and Bois Ha'ir, Shezem Avakesh B'nai Yishav HaKarcha Motzilam, they're asking to be saved. Okay. Uvalvad Shalo Yischashav Imoyim. What you can't do is Lechazik Ovdik Lechovim Velasasi Me'amoto. You can't join them. You can't join their ranks. They're the enemy army marauding. You're speaking to them to be good with them, so when they take over your city, they won't kill the Eden. But don't actually join them. In other words, we always need to be Paisech Ashtei Asifim. So both sides, we got to be good with both sides. We have to be good with Republicans and with Democrats. But if you're going to become part of them, that's going to be very bad. Also, so we said earlier you're not allowed to go. Here it says you are allowed to go. Again, we said earlier you're not allowed to go. Here we said you could go. So we already have the chiluk built right in. That's when it's also. It's a stira. So it's a machlokes tanoim whether or not you're allowed to go to these places. The Tanya. Why mipnei Moshe leitzim? Rab Nosson matter mipnei shnei devarim. For two reasons he's matter. Echad mipnei shetzavach umatzel. Maybe they'll be able to protest and save him. Echad mipnei shemeyid edus isha lasiya. Rachman al-Atan, this poor guy who was plucked off the street and he's going to be killed, his wife will become an aguna. Who's ever going to know? You can watch it, you can witness it, so you can say, Edus, I saw this fellow get ripped apart, so at least his wife can get remarried.
People, the viewers of they could seal the fate of the
right, because they would go.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
That's what he's saying. You could be there. You could say.
Oh, you could come back. You could say Tamam. Yeah, in Chanami. Taner Rabbanon. Ein holchin letartiois ulekarksios. You're not allowed to go to these places. Now, these the Mefarshim explained they were built like auditoriums, so the seats in the audience were on an incline. So the further back you are, the higher up you were. That's what the kartiois or karkisios are. But these were the general meanings that we discussed yesterday. The base Abba that they accused Rabbi Elazar not going to. Remember, Rabbi Elazar, the reason why I didn't go was I was afraid I would get trampled. Right? So these places you're not allowed to go there. The place from Ezalbel and Sham Zibul Avodas Kacham. You know what they do there? They figure out what type of needs the Avodas Kacham has, so everyone will chip in to help out. So the Ayi doesn't belong there. Divrei Meir. L'chamayim mokem shemezablim oser mabnei chashad Avodas Kacham. We're afraid that Zokrashi v'tichshav Kacham shlo yichashdu becheska Zibul Avodas Kacham. People seeing you go there will be choshed you of contributing to the Avodah Zarah. Umokum she'ein mezavlin sham, also mipnei Moshe leitzim. My benayu. What's the difference if the iser to go to mokum she'mezavlin is out chshad oivitz kachovim, or if it's out actually because mokum she'mezavlin sham. So nokamo. It says over here, v'cham mokum she'mezavlin also mipnei chshad oivitz kachovim. And the Tanakama says it's because is it because you're actually getting involved in helping the Avodah Zarah, or is it because someone will be choshid you for it? What's the difference? Either way, you're not allowed to. My beinayu, Amar Chanina Misura, Nosa v'Nosan ikabeinayu. The nafka is if you weren't in there with them, but you sold them something. If it's al chashad, so then you can have a problem. So as Rashi says, Rav Meir, Nosa v'Nosan, Osir will be Osir according to Rav Meir, because Rav Meir holds that's what they do there. So there's mamish avodah zarah. They're purchasing things and acquiring things for avodah zarah. That's actually happening there. If that's actually happening there, then if you do business there, you're probably selling something and you're benefiting from the pay of avodah zarah. What did the mayor say? They actually do. They actually buy things and prepare things in that meeting for avodah zarah. Remember, that's what's going on. And therefore, if you sell them anything, you're taking money of avodah zarah. And the koinin miyisrael zeh l'tzarech avodah zarah. If a Jew sells something to this system, to this organization, to this maimed, he's actually taking money from avodah zarah. For Rabbanan the Mefrashim mipnei chshad l'tzonos, the Rabbanan who said it's only chshad, u'lamidi achrini lo'chayshi. He's not chayshish that there's mamish avodah zarah. No, only people will think he's doing avodah zarah if he's in there with them. So if he's outside and he's just doing business with them in the parking lot, then it'll be mutter because we're not chayshish that they're buying things. The whole problem there in the first place was because people are going to think he's at noived avodah zarah. Tosfos asks, Mimonashich, there's a huge difference because according to Reb Meir, Davka Omar Mipnei Shemez Zavlin. But let's say it was a place where you know for a fact that they're not going to be dealing with the tzrach avodah zarah, you wouldn't be allowed to. But their mayor, but their abundant would hold the tzrach anyway because it's a chshad. Chshad is even if it's not actually happening. So Tosfos asked that question. We have to finish the daf, so we got to move. Zok to Gemara weiter. Dorish Rabbi Shimon ben Pasi. It says in the pasuk, Ashra Yesha Shaloi Halach Matas Rishayim Uvidach Hatam Amod V'Moshe V'Leishim L'Yosha V'Chimei Achar Shaloi Halach. If it says Ashra Yesha Shaloi Halach Matas Rishayim, so it ends there. He didn't do anything else. So Me'achar Shaloi Halach Heichad Amod. How could he have stood? Right? It says Uvidach Hatam Amod. He wasn't even there. He didn't even pass by there. He was Loi Halach. He didn't even pass by the neighborhood. So Me'achar Shaloi Halach Heichad Amod Me'achar Shaloi Amod Heichad Yosha. How did he sit down there? Ella loymalach to tell you Shem Halach. You might say, you know what? I'm going to just pass by where their Moshe Leitzim is. I'm not going to go in. I just want to see. It's interesting. I want to see the fireworks. You just pass by. You're going to end up pausing to get a closer look. And if you pause to get a closer look, you're going to end up sitting down there. And if you sit down there, you're going to end up wasting time with them together. And if you do that, if you indulge in Torah and Chachma, you will have that benefit. But if you waste your time with nonsense and latzonis, you're going to have to live with the consequences of your ignorance. If someone does latzonis, yusur and boinalov. Now, latzonis, we're going to soon see, is not stop making a joke. When someone makes latzonis, it means he has a disregard for the respect of a second person. For instance, you can have a regular guy that's making fun of anim that are schnorring money. They're making fun of schnorrers. That guy is schnorrer, right? That's showing that you don't have respect for somebody else. The latzonis that we're talking about is someone who's misgoya. He thinks he's better, and therefore he could poke fun and make fun of everybody else. Shneimar says in the pasuk, "Va'ata altus loitetzu." Don't fear the physical latzonis. Pen yechesku moshreichem. Your punishments might get very strong. Amalu rava l'rabanan. But Matusa, I beg you, but I beg you to loises loitetzu. Don't do latzonis. You know why? I don't want you to get yusurin, and that's what latzonis is going to cause. Hashem starts reducing his parnasa. Shenemar moshach yodai es loitzim. Hakadosh Baruch Hu pulls his hand back from being the finest loitzim. Amar b'shenim melokish. Kol loitzis neifel begehenim will fall in gehenim. Shenemar zad yohir. You're doing an avera with Yehira, with Gaiva, Lot Shumai. That's a let's. You know why? Because he looks down at everybody and can poke fun at anybody. So therefore, the ever Zed Yair Leit Shemai Oisa, the Everest Dodai means he's going to have the rage of avera. Vein ever el Gehenim. Whenever the pasuk use the word ever, it's referring to Gehenim. Shenemer lo ever ayom hu, talking about the end of days where Hashem punishes the goyim. It's going to be a yom ever. Someone who's a balgaiva, novel begehenim shnemer zayd yor leit shemoy. So this is what we see. Lotzanos is intimately intertwined with having this phantom fantasy idea of superiority. You can look down on everybody else. There are those who say not only are you hurting yourself, you're destroying the world. And then it goes shamati. It leads to full destruction. It's very bad. First, it leads to Yisurin, Latzonis, and then it leads to total destruction. That's what it means. But and then with Chatam Le'amad, so Le'halach Matzat Shoyim is Tati Durais Karkisois. So V'derech Chatam Le'amad is that Shaloi Amad Bekangiyoin. What's a Kangiyoin? Rashi says a Kangiyoin is Tzedus Chayal De Klovim. It's some type of entertainment with hunting, with animals, catching dogs catching animals. It's like a hunting expedition. Okay? Eilech Vesgora Bishina. So what are you going to say? I can't do anything. So I should stay in my bed a whole day? You prohibit me from doing anything? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Just lie in bed? No. I'm sorry. Oh, he shouldn't sit b'tachbulois. What are tachbulois? I'm sorry? What are they? Antics. Okay, you shouldn't go to these entertainment shows. So what should I do? I should just puff in bed all day. No, learn Torah in that time. That's how you should entertain yourself. Who is that referring to? Let's stop here because this goes on forever. And once we finish the daf, and it's already 7:53, we can start getting ready for davening. Shkoyach. These are mamish beautiful gemaras.
What's going on?